And we're back live.
Finally, I was getting restless over here. There's so much going on and nowhere to talk about it. And we apologize for the downtime. But it seems like we got everything running now. So I'm not sure where we left off. I think we were talking whiskey. I was talking with John Fozzie about whiskey. He's drinking Monkey Shoulder. And I was just talking about, it's again, that's not like one of those really expensive bottles, but, a lot of people get drawn to these expensive bottles of whatever. It could be anything, rum, like whiskey, bourbon, scotch. And, some of those are good, but honestly, I've had expensive whiskey and I'm like, it's not for me. So don't count out those, budget-friendly bottles because some of those are hidden gems. Like my friend Jen up in Canada has been telling me, you got to get Rowan's Creek. It's not even an expensive bottle. It's readily available. It's not allocated. And it's really good. So that's been like on my list of new things to try. But other than that, I'm not drinking tonight. I'm just smoking. I got my water with me. Carney, you got anything special over there you're drinking? Or are you just kind of drinking box wine?
Well, I've got the finest caffeine-free Diet Coke. What I got here. I got Diet Coke and I got a little Poland Springs bottled water. I'm taking it easy tonight. I had a rough one last night. Had a really intense therapy session yesterday afternoon for my balance, and I was a wreck this morning. I may have had a little bit too much wine last night, so I paid for it most of the day. So no, I'm back to normal now. So that's why I had my first cigar. So this is what happened. So the NASCAR race yesterday gets postponed, right?
Yeah.
Fox pulled a fast one, man. All right. I don't know if this is confirmed, but they got in that race. Was the race postponed prior to it starting?
Yes.
All right.
I believe so.
I don't know. I feel like they actually went out and did some laps, but they may not have. Because I don't remember in the Coca-Cola 600 there being a rain delay early on. Was there?
It wasn't
so this
early.
Is what happened.
There was a rain delay.
Yes. So if anyone's watching, this is what happened yesterday. The Alsco Uniform 500 was last night. And Fozzie, by the way, I've never been a big NASCAR guy. I'm into NASCAR now. It's my new thing. I'm embracing my New England accent. I'm embracing the beard, the whole deal. So I'm getting into NASCAR. So dude, I'm getting ready to watch the race, which is supposed to start at 8 o'clock or whatever, 7 o'clock, whatever. So I jump on Fox Sports 1, and the race is going on. We watch the beginning. I walk in, the race is going on. So I'm watching it, and they go about 24 laps or so, and there's a yellow flag, and it's because of the rain. So it was a rain delay. They go yellow flag, and they immediately went to commercial break. And the commercial break was like maybe one or two commercials. All right? So they do the one or two commercials. They come back about 45 seconds later, and the cars are back on the track racing. So I'm like, all right, well, hey, at least maybe the race is back on. I said to my dad, I go, this is insane. I go, how quick that rain blew over. I go, it was like less than a minute. I'm like, they were down pit road, and then all of a sudden they were all off pit road, and they're getting ready. There's like 2 or 3 laps left, and they're gonna, go green again. So I watched the race last night, the whole race, until the last 25 laps. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is the freaking Coca-Cola 600 that I'm watching. So I've now watched the last week the Coca-Cola 600 2 times from beginning to end, and I didn't realize it until the last 30 laps when I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, Chase Elliott's in the lead here, and Keselowski's behind him. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, this is too good. Then Jeff Gordon says something about how they're racing like they're at Talladega. And I'm like, man, he's saying the same thing. He's going to get new material. He just says the same thing every week. And then, and then the host goes, and this is the trophy that they get for the Coca-Cola 600. It's like midnight. I've been watching it since 7:30. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And I watched the whole Coca-Cola 600 twice.
Is that the one that was at Darlington? Was that the first race back that they had?
The 600, the 600 was at Charlotte, no?
The 600 was at Charlotte, so I think they did 2 cups in Darlington. Yep. They did at least 1 Xfinity. Might have done 2 Xfinity in Darlington. Then they went to Charlotte. They did a cup the 600. They're racing another cup right now. They did a truck series, an Xfinity series. Kyle Busch raced, I think, every single one of those races too.
I think there's only one race this week he wasn't part of.
Yeah. So
nice. So when they fired back up at Darlington, they've got a program going on, and I'm sure you've probably seen it at this point, where they are putting medical staff, first responders, they're putting their names on the cars during the race. And Kyle Busch had at Darlington the name just over the window on the door. And the woman whose name it was, who is currently working as a nurse in Virginia, actually used to be an employee of mine when I managed a bar in Providence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
So 2 weeks ago, when it said Mary Lana Gorham above his window, she's a Rhode Island girl. She born and raised out in Western Rhode Island and down in Virginia these days. But yeah, so she was pretty stoked. She's not really a NASCAR person, but somebody had submitted her name, and they selected it, and she ended up on his car for the first ride back.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
The big deal with this, John, too, that bothered me was that on the Fox, so I watch it on the app a lot of the time. So they had it on the app, and they had a race playing in place of the other race. So if you jumped on, you wouldn't know it was postponed. I had no idea it was postponed until later in the evening in the upper right hand corner after I realized it says postponed, and I'm like mother effer. I go, I just watched a 600-mile race twice, and I didn't figure it out until there was like 10 miles left.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened.
When I watched the Coke 600 on Sunday, I was out by the fire pit. I think I came in the house around like 12:45. I think I came in. Yeah, it was a long night, and unfortunately, Brad Keselowski won. I don't like Brad Keselowski at all. I would actually rather have seen Chase Elliott win. I don't know why he decided to come down pit road. I think he should have stayed out. I think that was a horrible mistake. But at the end, he won the Truck Series the other night, and he won the $100,000 bounty from Kevin Harvick to beat Kyle Busch. So
yeah,
big night for him.
So Johnny, I haven't asked this question before, so I'm going to ask it now. Tell me about the JT Reserve. Obviously, Jared and I have Jared Trudeau, what it's named after. He and I have a good relationship, and we've all had good friendships over the years. But I've never asked him anything about it. There's a couple reasons why I haven't. One, I don't want his head to get too big, and then two, I know it won't, and he'll just make fun of it at the same time. And I really want to know about it. So tell me a little bit about the JT Reserve or Signature, right?
So the JT Signature Series, yes. So this was something a couple of years in the making. This was a decision that Glenn made and felt that Jared should have a cigar, as we've branded him into the scheme of things. So Jared took his time with it because in true Jared fashion, it was nothing that he wanted to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If as little as he can get away with, he's going to cheat. So took his time with it, and it took about 2 years from start to finish with the project. But it's a little something different from us. Jared's always been a Padron guy, so as a result, it's that box press, a little homage to that. We've never worked with Ecuadorian HVA wrapper in the past. That's what's on that. So a completely different flavor profile from most of what we produce. Jared's not a full-bodied guy. Likes a milder, a lighter stick, medium at best. So it's designed to be that true medium smoke, and in a position where, whether you like mild or full, it's going to hit you kind of dead center and not be too much. So
I love the N2 bar roll on this cigar too. It has an amazing draw. Tons of smoke. I'm getting tons of smoke as I smoke this cigar, and it's actually going pretty quickly. I'm already about here. I'm probably at least 2.5 inches into the cigar already. I mean, it's It's fantastic. They burn quick, but I love them.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I haven't smoked it. I haven't smoked it yet.
You're missing out. Like you got to.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know why I haven't.
It it's one of those cigars that was designed to be an event only. It's not going to be everywhere when all is said and done.
Oh, okay, that's the why.
It's probably only going to end up in about maybe 75, 80 accounts nationwide by the time everything is said and done.
Okay.
Jerry, he's not looking to have it everywhere and be mass produced. He wants to kind of keep it in
special, more or less. Which actually, I was asking you about this, Fozzie. I think it was yesterday. I had seen that Christoph now has another kind of special release they got going on, the Woodlawn series. I remember asking you about. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean so the Woodlawn actually is not new. The Woodlawn's been around for quite a while. It very limited production. We probably make 500 to 1,000 boxes a year at most on it. 10-count boxes. It's kind of that Perfecto #1 size. I guess would be the best way to describe it, shape and size wise. It's a little homage. 685 Woodlawn is the address that Glenn grew up at as a kid.
Oh wow, nice.
So a little back history with that. But yeah, it's another one. We don't do a lot of limiteds. That would fall into that category coming from us because of how scarce the production is. It's spread around, and some accounts still do have it and carry it on the regular, a couple boxes here and there. But it's definitely not something from us that you're going to find everywhere.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I always, as you guys know, I mean, I love Christoph as well, and I smoke a lot of Christoph. I've been getting my girlfriend into cigars now, and I was telling her yesterday, I'm like, yeah, I got a bunch of Christoph cigars I want you to try too. And I saw the Woodlawn, and I hadn't seen it actually until recently, and I thought it was new, but you know, apparently it's been out there. But you know, it's another one that now that's on my list. I got to try it because you know I love Christoph stuff, and I've been a fan of them for a long time. And yeah, limited stuff always kind of catches me too. I like the whole mystique of, you know, the rare stuff. And I was going to say something else. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I love though how, you know, you were saying that it was Glenn's address, and I like, you know, when manufacturers do stuff like that with cigar lines, they put these little like hidden meanings or little homages in. I always think it's great. I think it's cool. I really think that it makes cigars special, and it helps enforce that point that, you know, cigars are special. The sentiment of smoking cigars is special. I love.
And I think John will agree. I mean, you've been around the industry longer than I have in some capacities, and probably around the same time frame in total. You know, as much as visual and as much as reviews and media is going to sell a cigar, at the retail store level, a good story will always sell a cigar.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, that was. I know I have a couple of special items from LFD. I have some Andalusian Bull. I have the Ligero A. If you guys follow me online, you've seen that I put that on there. Also today I received a couple of special cigars. I received a Undercrown Manifesto and a Liga Privada A that I'm gonna tear into in a little bit. I just got it today and still thumbing that over. I got a box of cigars I've been looking for a while. It's a Fuente. It's an Oro Scoro from the Opus X line. I've been wanting that one for a while, so I'm getting kind of limited on retail space though right now. Cabinets are getting full, so I'm gonna have to just start smoking through some stuff that I've been holding on to for a while. But
Well, I think John and I, when we run into this on the road, is it's time for you to get another cabinet. Sounds like.
Yeah.
I already got two. I don't know if I can do.
All that means is there's room for 3.
Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, I want to get some more cigars. You hear it at every event. Somebody comes in, oh man, I'd be buying some cigars from you, but but my humidor is full, and it's like, yeah, well, it's time to get it's time to get another humidor. I mean, that's the simple solution to the problem. So.
Let's see. I have one whole shelf that's La Flor Dominicana. I have a shelf in the middle that's got some Christoph in there. I got some shade grown. I have a couple boxes of firecrackers from last year that I still have.
Nice.
So yeah, you guys alone are taking up a good percentage of one of my cabinets right now. And then of course there's a lot of Fuente in there too. But so I would say between Christoph, LFD, Fuente, and Byron, I gotta give a shout out to Oliver Nouveau from United with Byron Atabay. Yeah, you three are pretty much, you four are pretty much the ones who are taking up all my space right now. So and I wouldn't have it any other way. Those are my favorite brands. I love buying them. I love smoking them. I do buy them in large quantities because I know I'm going to smoke them. I know I'm going to share them with people because I love them and I want to have other people love them. And it's one of those things, especially when you have a box and you have plenty of them. It's like you're with someone, you're like, hey, have you had this? And you're like, here, take this and try it. Because it's like I want to get people to buy LFD and Christoph too. And like I said, I got my girlfriend smoking now. So the approach I took with her though is, she met me and she saw that how involved I am in the cigar world, and she wanted to learn, and I said that's great, and she wanted to try it. But I said to her, I said, I don't want to tell you like you should smoke this and you shouldn't like that. I'm kind of, she goes through the catalog, she goes on the websites all on her own. She likes how, and actually, she pointed out something that I didn't really notice before, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but she had a catalog from Corona Cigar, which is Jeff down in Florida, and she liked how in his catalog and on another website she was on, she liked how they listed their cigars for sale with all the tasting notes. And it for someone like her, I mean, for me, I guess I didn't pick up on this, but for her, she was buying cigars based off of the tasting notes that she would see in the catalog and online, and she really liked that. So she was buying stuff that she saw like honey, chocolate, and like something else. She's like, I'm buying that because the tasting notes sound like something I'll like. In your experience, I started thinking about it. I don't see it a lot. Is that something? What's your take on that? Do you think that more retailers should be advertising more tasting notes, or is it more? I don't know. Figured I'd get your opinion on that.
Well, I don't know John's opinion on this. I know from coming out of retail and my time on the road, I would tend to say that truthfully, while they're an interesting conversation point, I don't know how many guys truly pick up all of those flavors, right? There's only so many guys that are retrohaling when they're smoking.
Right.
So it's kind of tough, and you also don't want to tip something off and say, hey, it is chocolatey, or it's like molasses, or it's got something in that flavor quality that's it just might not hit a guy right. It could prove to be a cigar that the guy would absolutely fall in love with, but because you tell him it's going to taste like dark cocoa, he says, I'm not going to try it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be a deterrent for some people who are, they see that and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to get it because of that, instead of actually being a positive thing. But yeah, I mean, that was one thing that she picked up on that I guess I never really noticed. I mean, when I buy cigars, I usually don't buy them based on stuff like that. I buy certain things for certain reasons. And I just thought that was an interesting piece. But
so
Carney,
my view on it is, I think it's really interesting that she mentioned that, because every online retailer has some sort of a description for the cigar, right? Because you're buying it right there, you can't smoke it, you're looking at it on the screen, and you got to know what's going on. So they have some sort of description, whether it's flavor, body, strength, a little excerpt about each cigar. So I mean, I will agree with John in regards to not everybody's going to get those flavor profiles. Like somebody says, oh, it's going to taste like this, and I don't necessarily taste it. Now, I'm not like a super taster, so when somebody says, oh, you're tasting hazelnuts or whatever on Cameroon, I'm like, oh, you're right. Yeah, it is like hazelnuts. So when people say, oh, it tastes like this, well, yeah, you know what? You're kind of right, because I taste what I taste. It's good or not. However, I would say that the reality of the industry is even more now with the coronavirus situation. The vast majority of cigars are bought online. Now, I'm not saying our brand, my brand does or John's brand, does with Christoph, but I mean, majority of cigars are bought online. So there's got to be some credence to having that descriptive nature, correct? So I would, encourage retailers to say, well, hey, it's different than online. Yeah, I get it. It is different, but most of these people, most people are buying their stuff online. So why wouldn't you have descriptors or some sort of a system in a store to present products in the same way? And, I think some of the retailers might say, well, we have somebody that's inside working the humidor. Yeah, it's a different case, but I don't think every retail shop has somebody working inside the humidor providing information and things like that, or necessarily are welcome to hearing it. So, the customers in the store, most likely they bought something online before and they read the description. I think it would be a positive thing to have a more descriptive nature, uh, or some sort of a display, whether it's a shelf talk or whatever, or handouts or anything. I think there definitely could be some benefit to something like that, simply because where most cigars are sold is almost only, nearly all of them have descriptions. So, I think that would be, would be a positive thing because it obviously works, right?
Well, I agree. There's definitely merit and it works. I just worry that at this point, I think most guys are buying online and shopping online merely because stores are closed, right? I mean, we all see it cross country at this point. Your options are limited, so I don't know how much those descriptors are playing and what's actually selling, right? Are guys going to the catalog and going, hey, I know XYZ brand, so that's what I'm buying, or are they taking the time and scrolling through all those descriptors
Yeah,
to
I
kind of cherry pick,
I don't know, and I like to think these, the company I represent with La Flor Dominicana, we don't do a large amount of online business. Majority of my business, over 95%, is brick and mortar retail stores. But these companies are dialed in. They're huge, publicly traded companies that own these big players. I like to think if it didn't work, they probably wouldn't do it, right?
You got to fill catalog space somehow, right?
Yeah.
True. Well, yeah, no, I wanted to bring that up because it was brought to my attention, and like I said, I hadn't really thought about it, and it kind of made sense, and I did start looking around at different people, and some people had those notes on there, and a lot of people didn't.
It never hurts to have more information, or at least access to the more information if you wanted it. I'd go along with kind of what John's saying is sometimes if there's just too much information, it may be too much for somebody. So I think that to find a way to subtly do it where if you want the information, you can get it, or it's easy to retrieve, so you feel comfortable buying in a brick and mortar setting. It's huge. But yeah, I mean, there's some people. I mean, I know it. There's guys down in Rhode Island that if you were like, hey, this is going to have cocoa, taste of cocoa and coffee, they'd be like, I don't want it. Even if it's not a flavored infused, it's like I don't want something that tastes like cocoa. And it may just be
Well,
a natural
and I
cigar
think,
that's got it on it.
and I'm sure you've seen it in your travels, and you're all over the country, whereas I'm kind of in my little neck of it up this way. Um, I think the best example and the best story I've heard anywhere about that exact thing is Espinosa, right? The Laranja. There's not a flavor of orange in that cigar, but 9 out of 10 guys will tell you it tastes just like orange zest. It's in
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Espinosa himself will come out and tell you, yeah, not a chance.
I think we got a unique comment here. I'll put it up on the screen and hopefully not freeze the show. But Nicole says it's the same for makeup and beauty products. It also makes me feel like I know more about cigars than I actually do, which is a good point. And as I said, there's definitely areas where it's beneficial to having that. And I said access to information is never a negative thing, but obviously, if you can take things that work in certain places and transform them to work in another setting, would never be a negative thing. So that's definitely a unique thing to bring up, and something I haven't been asked that question before, so it's a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was brought to my attention, and from my point of view, I was kind of like, wow, we don't have a good answer for that. So I figured I'd ask two of my good buddies who are actually in the shops and with companies and, are trying to push cigars. So, no, yeah, I'm glad I brought it up. And I'm looking at our time frame here, and it's going to be all out of whack because we had such a gap in the beginning. We're definitely going to have to extend our show.
I know it was a flashback to the to the May Day Eve massacre.
Oh yeah, that's right. Our first episode, which is
Johnny. I don't know. I tried to create a holiday. About a month ago, and it failed miserably, and the whole system screwed up. I was a defeated man. It was awful, and so May Day Eve was the May Day Eve episode, and we canceled May Day Eve. So my shot at making a holiday didn't go too well. And as I said, this was flashbacks. I was definitely having flashbacks of the May Day Eve massacre.
The only thing I will say though is that on that show, I can't remember. I feel like something else. I feel like you had some other issues that day or something. Because when we got to that point and we had issues with the show, I just remember after you were so defeated. I remember being private with you, and you just were sitting there like, it's like it's not that bad. And you were like, that one really got me.
It was everything I was trying to do with my computer. Nothing was working. My Wi-Fi wasn't working correctly. I had upgraded to like the 500 megabyte, the highest internet they could let me get up here. It wasn't working. It was like a week of just awful things going on with me. Just trying all I wanted to do was do a little show and put like a freaking Christoph logo above your head, John. And I was like, the technology wouldn't allow me to do it. It's like I just wanted to play music, and it wouldn't let me play music. So it was just a really defeated day. But yeah, so hey, we recovered, and it seems like we're doing well now.
That Christoph logo is up there. It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks. So it's working now. We got the Smokin Tabacco logo on me. We don't have an LFD one over you, but that's okay. We could do quarantine grilling.
Well, I'm a host. I'm a host on the show for now. I'm still a host. I haven't resigned yet.
Yeah. The day that John hands in his resignation when he has to go back on the road will be a tough day. But I think after like an hour, I'll be like, all right, I knew this was coming, and I'll move on.
Well, I'll still be back, but I'll be guest hosting episodes. But every great thing's got to move on.
Oh yeah, of course, and I know what'll happen, and we'll get some new stuff going. But anytime you want to come back on the show, of course, you're always welcome back. You were here for ground zero.
Yeah, so our timing will be off today, which is fine, and I don't even know if I have the sound capabilities for the overtime thing. So we'll see what happens. But so a couple other big things went on this week. Fozzie, I'm assuming you're a baseball fan.
Not as much as I used to be, for a few reasons that I won't get into at this point. But I grew up playing the game, spent plenty of time around it.
So we've got an interesting situation going on right now with Major League Baseball and its players' union. Major League Baseball, obviously, being the one sport that fully guarantees their contracts. And the top paid baseball players are some of the top, 1% of highest paid athletes in the world. They get paid like, people are like, oh, soccer players get paid great. I'm like, no, try being an ace. Try being a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball. You're going to make like almost 40 mil, or be a big player. These guys get paid serious. So Major League Baseball is essentially at the beginnings of my view of like a little bit of a labor dispute over how they're going to get paid. The players had already agreed to one pay cut. It's going to be a shortened season, so there's going to have to be some pay differences. But we talked on the show. One of the main reasons baseball players get paid so much is because it's 162 games. If the NFL had 162 games, Tom Brady probably get paid. He probably got paid the same money playing in New England, but you look at these players. I mean, there'd be billion-dollar contracts if they were paying that type of length of games. They're playing a short schedule.
I think the unjust or unfair part of that, when you start looking at that, right, is you've got an ace pitcher making $40 million a year, and what's he start? 30 games a year maximum.
Yeah.
Right. Versus that outfielder who's out there for probably 150 games. That per game average.
True.
And not exactly.
So what Major League Baseball is essentially doing right now is trying to negotiate how they're going to pay these players. And the players, I'm kind of on the players' side with this, where it's like baseball. You're the ones that put these fully guaranteed contracts in place, and we've already taken a pay cut. But they're trying to pit that second level of player that we talked about, because the top tier gets paid most of the money, obviously. So
Yep.
they're trying to pit the lower tier against the higher tiers, whereas essentially, say you make $30 million a year under the new contract, the new plan, you'd make like $7 million. Say you make like $2 million a year under the new thing that they proposed to them, they'd make about $1 million. So their salary would just get cut in half, where the other person gets cut, misses out on like $28 million. And there's more of that. So what they're trying to do right now, essentially, is one of the proposals they had, is to try to essentially pit the majority against the minority, which is the high end side of it. But my side of it, I'll ask you guys your opinions. But my view on it is, some of these owners are going to have to suck it up. This is baseball's a very wealthy sport. None of those owners are hurting. Um, None of them are risk at losing their teams, losing their business, anything like that. So they're going to have to suck some of this up and pay these guys, if they want to start creating revenue.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, I come from a household where we do work with a Major League Baseball team. For those who don't know, I'm an electrician, part of Local 103, IBEW. So is my dad, and that's why I got into it. And for the last 21, 22 years now, my dad has works for an outside contractor, but also has been exclusively working at Fenway Park with the Boston Red Sox, take care of all of their needs in the building electrically. And I mean, he's there for every game, every concert. Major League Baseball wants someone like him in the building. Especially because you have all those fans there for safety. You need someone there. You have TV broadcast going on. It's a major league event. It's a professional organization. You want to have someone there in case something was to happen. You want someone to jump right in. So that's been a huge part of our lives. Especially for me growing up. Now that I come into the business, so for him, there's no baseball games, right? That's a lot of work that's been taken. That's a lot of work that was taken away from him. Even from me. I mean, I've been at home the last few months because I was with him up until the coronavirus thing struck. We were working on a project for the Red Sox clubhouse actually, and then I went home, and a lot of people went home, and luckily my dad wasn't laid off. My dad's still been going to work, but it's been different. And you look at the situation with the players, and they're worried about their $30 million contract, and it's like, well, I understand like why you'd be like, all like, well, I'm gonna lose a lot of money, even though like, do you really need it? But you have to try to think about all these other employees, and not even just us. Like, yeah, there's us, but I mean, there's front office staff. I know a lot of people in the Red Sox organization.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of friends, growing up, and friends that I've made, being in the building every day. And my heart goes out. I spoke to a good friend of mine who, was a part of the Red Sox organization the other day, and he was telling me, it's going to get to a point where nothing starts happening. There's Red Sox employees that they're just going to have to let go.
Well, the big thing with it is this. The big name players and the big money players bring the most revenue in. That's why they get paid the most. And the thing that Major League Baseball needs to understand is what's important is, the other employees. You said like your father, the concessions, all this other stuff, and different things going on. If they're going to get in a labor battle, which by the way will take care of itself if there's no coronavirus next year, because there's 162 games again, they're going to make their money back. Baseball makes money.
Yes.
The only thing that would damage baseball is if they don't get back to playing and they don't get to a reasonable situation, because then it impacts you. So here's the thing: if you want to, Mike Trout needs to get paid because he's going to put asses in the seat. He's going to be what people want to watch. You got to pay your pitchers. You got to do this, and it's got to be fair. But the most damaging thing is if they just don't get back to playing games. Because if they don't get back to playing games, your job's affected. Everybody else's job's affected. The players are all going to be able to play baseball in some capacity. And yeah, you say some of these smaller players aren't making as much money, But it needs to be fair. It doesn't need to be a situation of where if you make 30 million, you get treated different than if you're making 1 million. Hey, the team signed those contracts, and yeah, you can alter them to fit for the situation. But if this goes longer, if I was baseball, you got to get the season started. Whichever sports league gets started is going to have the eyes of everybody watching it. And so right now, baseball's discussion going on is about money in a time where people don't want to hear about it. The NBA is
Right.
talking about how are we going to play the season as soon as possible. Boom, we're going to go to Disney World. We're all going to go there. They got all these cool ideas about how it's going to work out. The NFL's talking about it. Hockey's already talked about how they're going to do it. And baseball, like typical baseball, is arguing about money. Get the game started. Get the games playing. Get people paid and let it take care of itself. Do something that's fair. Just get going because people want to watch baseball. People want live sports. I don't want to hear about baseball arguing. I don't want billionaires arguing with millionaires. I don't want that. And I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
mean,
you do either.
you look at, like NASCAR is running a race right now. They've been racing almost every other day for like the last 10 days. They found a way to make it back. Now, obviously NASCAR is a different situation. Everyone's in a car and it's a little bit easier to do, but
There's no
found a way.
fans.
There's no fans, but they found a way to make it work. Hockey and basketball, I know, are aggressively working on just getting it to work, and I haven't heard a peep about anyone talking about what the player is going to make for money. Granted, those seasons were already at the end going into playoff time, so most of their season had already been completed, but still, no one complained about money. The NFL is still saying, like, we are taking precautions to play with or without fans. We still plan to play on time. Either way, we're going to have guidelines in place so that we're safe no matter who's at the game or what. They're rolling on. I haven't heard anything about money with the NFL either. I was flipping through and I saw there's some soccer teams in Europe that were playing soccer. No fans. They're playing. Sports organizations, teams, leagues all over the world. The Korean baseball leagues, they're playing baseball. No fans, but they're playing. People are finding a way to make sports happen. And especially now when, I know it's tough to put on sports, but it's also like people need the sports to watch. People need that sort of that thing to kind of come together. They need that thing for motivation. It makes the world seem less scary if at least they can turn on baseball. You know what I mean? If at least, there might not be fans there. Maybe you can't go have a beer at the game. But if you can at least turn on a baseball game and watch it or whatever, it's something. And by not even giving the fans a baseball season it's going to be very damaging. And there's some retired players who've been interviewed on the subject who have said, they've been trying to influence some of these younger guys who are playing now, saying like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I was a player once and I dealt with that. But at the same time, you don't play this year, you're going to cause more damage than you think you're going to get by playing for less money.
Well, and listen, there are so many options on the table at the end of the day, right? It's a dollar and cents issue. And John, you actually said it well, right? These guys get paid to put asses in seats, right? Well, if you're not playing to a fan anyway, that's kind of an off the table part of the equation, right? If there's no fan in the stadium, adjust your pay accordingly.
Exactly.
So I think there's got to be a realization there. I mean, ownership, agents, players all have the option of saying, listen, we're only going to play what's going to equate to less than half a season this year, right? So every contract's going to get extended, and it's almost kind of going to become like July 31st when the usual trade deadline rolls up, right? So in the next full season, the last season of your contract technically isn't going to be a full season. July 31st at the trade deadline, we're going to be having this discussion about whether you're staying or going or what we're doing with it. There's ways they can justify the numbers that they can juggle and do it out. But I think for guys getting paid what they get paid to play a kid's game, in essence, I'm going to call it what it is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, for these guys to say, I'm not going to play for less than X when we've got how many million on unemployment worrying about how they're even going to pay their rent tomorrow. And that's something none of these guys are ever going to worry about, whether they're making league minimum or they're making $40 million a year.
Right.
True, but the largest revenue source for Major League Baseball and any professional sports is their television contracts. So this is going to all be on television, like NBC, Fox, all these networks. They're not going to end up paying less to broadcast these games because those contracts are already in place. It's like Monday Night Football costs like $3 billion for like ESPN to have that. So this is where the money's at. So I look at the same side, and usually I side with owners on things where I'm like, hey, if you want to work, you want to work, and that's the side of it, too. But they're going to say, hey, player, you're going to take a third, and we're going to play 80 games, and I'm still going to get paid on these television contracts. So I can make a profit. You're going to suck it up. I don't know. I feel a little weird about it. I just don't know why they don't just break it down by, hey, if we play 60 games, you're going to get paid for 60 games. That's it.
Divide it per game, what they should be getting, and put it out there. That's the way I look at it. Be done.
Yeah.
Right? Be done. It's as simple as that. And again, that probably in turn comes down to you're still going to have issues, right? Because if a guy's a pitcher and he's making $30 million this year, and he's legitimately only going to see 12 starts, it's a lot of money invested in a player compared to the rest of your squad, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
Baseball to me, so I'll backtrack slightly. Part of where baseball lost me as a big fan was post late 90s strike season, when if it wasn't for guys like McGuire, Sosa, Bonds hitting 500-yard rockets, guys wouldn't have been in the seats, right? And as soon as revenue was back, television ratings were up, it became a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. Steroids, HGH, right? Baseball, this has been a game that since its inception, right? Babe Ruth was a drunk. Mantle was a drunk. They played double headers with bowls of pills in the dugout so that guys could stay awake to get through 18 innings. It's the culture of the sport. And to turn it into a witch hunt to me was so hypocritical that they kind of lost me. And it's why I'm more of a football fan now than I am a baseball fan. Not that I don't still enjoy the game. But I think that this is that same type of a thing all over again, right?
100%.
You've got to get actors back in seats. You've got to get revenue generated. You've got to get yourself going. There's got to be concessions on both sides, and it's...
Yeah. What makes baseball great is also always its downfall. Because what makes baseball so these guys get paid great is 162 games. What's making a challenge now is there's 162 freaking games. And even if they cut the season in half, it's the second longest sports season. It'll be the second longest sports season out there. So it's really challenging. And I said, baseball's had, in my lifetime, they've had 2 significant labor disputes. And they're looking like they're going to probably have another one. And this is going to be really damaging if they can't get baseball figured out soon. And then the NBA goes off, the NHL goes off with a great program. Because the NBA, whether you're a basketball fan or not, Adam Silver knows what he's doing. And he puts a great product together where they're throwing around different ideas all the time. Whether they do them or not, it's different. But they're going to have a great product. They're going to have gym basketball, essentially, somewhere. Probably Disney World. And you're going to get to watch LeBron James play against these guys in gymnasiums. It's going to be wild. It's going to be a cool product to watch. It's going to be really interesting. Hockey will probably play in little hockey arenas. You know what I mean? They'll probably play in like these ice domes. They've got in all these areas. Who knows? So they're going to have a great product. And the baseball's going to still be talking about how much Max Scherzer should get paid.
Basically, I look at it, and it's the unfortunate part for guys like yourself, Matt, your family, and all the other secondary employees involved at the stadiums, from the guys selling popcorn and peanuts all the way up, right? The problem with baseball, unfortunately, is that if they're not on the field by the time the All-Star break would have been coming back out, there's not going to be a product to put out. You're going to run out of time, right? I mean, by mid-October, late October, you're going to see places like Colorado where it's already starting to see snow and everything else. Unless they find a way to do what they've talked about early on of we're only going to play in Arizona or we're only going to play in certain regions, I know they've talked about, if you're an East Coast team, you're only going to play other East Coast teams. You're not traveling out of that segment. I know they've bounced around a lot of things. But either way, if it's not happening by that All-Star break window, I don't think you see a season, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
no.
one of the things that I was told from the inside was that Major League Baseball had reached out to all the clubs and was like, make sure all your schedules are clear through the end of November. So I think that if
Yeah,
they
but
would have
then they're
guessed,
competing with the NFL that time. You know what I mean? And people just aren't going to care. It's just, again, it's how
Well,
much
who wants
damage
to
has
watch a
baseball
baseball
done in the
game
last
when it's
20 years?
snowing?
Yeah. And how much damage has baseball done in the last 20 years? I mean, 20, 25, 30 years. I mean, they've screwed shit up so many times, and it looks like they're going to screw it up again. And then
Yep.
the NBA is going to get it right again. And they used to screw stuff up. They're going to get it right again. Hockey's going to get it right again. And the NFL gets to do whatever it wants because the NFL's king.
that's true. I mean, the NFL kind of rules the roost over
You're going to
there.
watch football, man. That's just going to happen. It is what it is. It's America.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I mean NFL's probably got the most flexibility of anybody out there, right? Because it is a short season. We're looking at a 16 game schedule this year. They weren't switching to 17 until next. If you got to shave 4 games off and eliminate the month of September, so be it.
yeah,
Preseason's 2 games,
Yeah,
1 game, whatever.
right. I mean, there's a way to shave that and make it work. Baseball season's too long. You can't play 20 games and expect to go to the playoffs, right? It doesn't play that way.
I mean, even if, I mean, and this maybe is a big if, but even if the NFL was like, you know what, like I know the first Sunday in February is Super Bowl Sunday, but maybe we shift everything down and maybe the Super Bowl happens end of February. Give ourselves a couple of
And
weeks on the back
the
end.
NFL's already put that on the table. The NFL has already said that they would push it back 3 weeks to the end of February
Yep.
and shift everything. That conversation's already been held.
So that works. It's and like John was saying before, Carney was saying before, with TV is, the NFL obviously they play less games. Yes, they play in bigger stadiums, but still, like, it's not the ticket sales where the NFL makes money. It's not on the concessions. It's not on the jerseys, and it's not on the merchandise. It's the TV. NFL makes all their money on the TV rights. So there's still a lot of TV money that's in play here for everybody in every sports league.
There's tons of TV money because all the games initially are going to have to be on TV.
Yeah, so everyone's going to be tuning in. That means all the advertisements. There's going to be a lot more money in advertisements. You're going to have a lot more viewership. There's going to be, could there be a Super Bowl next year? Could Super Bowl 51 be a Super Bowl with no fans? Maybe, but traditionally, whether there's fans or not, the Super Bowl is probably the most watched thing in the United States every year.
I think it's Super Bowl 53 next year. Or 54.
54, I believe.
54, yeah.
Yeah.
You missed a couple years there. I know the Pats didn't win this year, so all of us are in denial.
What did I say? I don't even remember.
You said 51.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 54. But yeah, I mean, could Super Bowl 54 be the first one with no fans? Maybe. Maybe there's no halftime show.
The Super Bowl is going to happen, and that stadium is going to be packed. You're going to be getting friggin' vaccines as you go in.
I mean, but you know what I mean? They will find a way to make it work. And it's disappointing because baseball already has that reputation. Well, I know I have friends who are diehard hockey fans, and the one thing they say about baseball, like, I hate baseball. Those players are paid way too much. They act like, prima donnas, and, hockey players are not like that. Yeah, does baseball make more money because of the more? Yeah, but it's true. It's being reflected now that these baseball players. It's showing how they're being Major League Baseball, and the rest of the sports world is going to continue and find a way.
And by the way, these other leagues. They're definitely having conversations about money. 100%. It's just when it's with baseball, it's always like not only public. It's just like there. It's like always out there.
And that's just it, right? It becomes the primary focus. It becomes nothing but a public conversation. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that gets done quietly and, here's what we've arranged. It's not going to happen without guys like Snell making comments in the media a couple weeks ago, right?
Yep.
So, I guess that kind of takes care of our sports topic for the week. It's definitely a big one, and and we'll have to see. By next week, we'll see if there's any developments. I know the NHL says that they're getting pretty close to starting back up. The NHL, and they've announced the regular season is complete. They have already announced the regular season champions, and now they're just looking forward to the playoffs. So that's promising, and I know the NBA will be right behind them.
Yeah. I mean, the NHL was very fortunate in that by time everything came to a screeching halt, March 12th, March 13th, their season was scheduled to end April 4th. I mean, there was only a handful of games left.
Yeah,
It's not like they were in a position where there were a whole lot of games that were going to have major consequence. Yeah, some teams fighting for the wild card and sneaking into the playoffs, but with the extended format of the playoffs that they're going to run, it kind of eliminated that worry and that need.
Right, and I'm pretty sure the NBA was talking about doing the same thing. They're going to have a little bit more teams for a playoff, a bigger playoff bracket.
Yeah.
So and again, they'll find a way to make it work. Their seasons, and that's one of the things that is different. Their seasons were already at the end; they were going into the playoffs. The NFL hasn't started yet. Major League Baseball is just starting, so it's like this all happened right at the end of spring training. So it's like their regular season hadn't even just begun yet, and then this all started. And that's the thing, like you were saying, by the All-Star break. I mean, we're in almost the middle of the Major League Baseball season, and not one regular season game has been played yet. Versus most of the NHL season is over, NBA season is over, NFL hasn't begun. Now you're in the middle of a season, and it happens to be baseball. Yeah, I mean that's poor timing, and it's the wrong league, I guess, to have that issue.
What are you lighting up now?
I'm finishing off the Shriner from Hram Solomon that I started up earlier while I was cooking on the grill. And my Christoph, as much as I love it, I went through it quick. It does burn quick, and I got kind of to the end there, and I wanted to let it rest for a little bit, and I figured I'd light up something else and just change it up a little bit. How you doing over there with that cigar? You look like you're getting kind of close.
Well, I got the band off, and
yeah.
I probably got about 2.5, 3 inches left on it. It's really good, man. It's a nice medium body, real smooth, clean on the palate. I picked it up because I didn't want it to really kick my ass. I'm trying to do a detox day today. So I did a couple of things today that were unique. I started, for those that have known me for a while, I am generally a hairless person. I generally am a hairless man. I have this large new mane on my head and on my face. And it's pool season, so it's slowly turning blonde. But I did today start cleaning hair off of other parts of my body, and I won't get specific about it, but clean my arms up a little bit. I had some crazy chest hair going on because I hadn't done any grooming for almost 4 months. The last time I had a haircut was the beginning of February. The last time I shaved my face with anything was, I grow real slow, Fozzie. So this is 4 months worth of work. So I haven't done anything for 4 months. So it was like everything. So I'm like looking at pictures. I got hair coming out of my chest. I looked incredibly manly, obviously. I was like, I got to start cleaning this up. I got to make this thing look good. I just got back in the gym last week. I got a tan. So I'm starting to, I did a few things today. And, today was a self-reflection day and a self day. So I'm smoking something a little milder.
So does that include your manscaping? Has that been on hold as well, or?
I'm not getting into specifics, but I have started bringing myself back to a more normal level of hair. So, right, I've probably eliminated about 20% of hair today. As you can see, it wasn't on my face.
So we that tells us that John went from the jungle probably down to a nice thin Bermuda grass, but also.
Which is way more information than I would ever need to know about John.
I was inspired by all the the golf that's been going on these last couple weekends. I definitely read the grain and made sure that I was cleaning it up appropriately.
But the other thing I want to say to this is you did post a picture on your personal private Facebook page, and you were in the pool. Your hair was wet. You had the sunglasses on. You kind of had that like tough guy look going, and I was just remember thinking like, is this going to be the cover of GQ next month. It was good. It was a good looking photo. You look like a slightly older Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when I'm younger than him, first of all, but that was the one that really triggered me on the hair removal on the chest because I was like, man, I'm just not a chest hair guy. So I was like, I had that. That was my picture, and I was like, all right, I got to slowly. Said I got to bring this back. I got to make it. I got to make this quarantine look good, man. The first 2.5 months, I didn't really do anything. I didn't take care of myself. I eat, I drink. I was
Eating
smoking.
popcorn.
Yeah, I was smoking 4 cigars a day. I was drinking a bottle and a half of wine a day.
You mean
So
a
I was
box
like,
and a half?
yeah, a box and a half of wine. And I was like, I gotta make this look good. I can't come out of this. I can't come out of this and be like, man, the quarantine was tough on you. I need to come out and be like, man, he quarantined well.
Yeah. Well, that's a good attitude to have. You don't want to look like a caveman coming out of quarantine. I haven't seen Fozzie this whole time, but Fozzie looks the same. He looks like he's kept up with his
Yeah.
physical appearance. I have to give him props for that.
So John, I with you, right? This is 4 months worth of growth right here. So,
Normally by now I'd be seeing you guys like at cigar events and stuff, and I've only seen Carney once when he went to the Cigar Authority, but yeah, it was and it was definitely strange. It was a different guy. It wasn't the same Carney that we all know and love on that Cigar Authority episode. That was the do's and don'ts of the cigar shop. And
Yeah, I offended some people in that episode, I guess.
Apparently, that's what the rumor on the street was.
It wasn't as big as we played it up, but there was a guy that did you listen to the after show?
Not yet.
You got to listen to the after show. The after show's about me. So I had this guy, Fozzie, that wrote in. He said, I was the guest on the show. Like when I'm a guest on the show, they ask, you've been a guest on the show, I think,
Yeah.
or if you're a guest on the show. I mean, you're a guest on our show now, and I mean, I probably talk too much on here too, but they were asking me questions. So I'm going to answer the questions, and I was the highlight of the show. So there was someone that was watching that said that I was a know-it-all. And I was like, that's weird. That was a really opposite way I thought this would be. So I was like, sorry that I was the guest. And like, you invited me on the show. It's a 2-hour show. Like, it was like, oh, he dominated the show. Like, I'm the guest. I thought I would dominate the show. It was about me. The show was about me. Anyway, whatever. Hey,
he's just mad because he's not getting love like he's used to getting. So now he's like, it's a very weird time for John Carney.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's quarantine, right? Even the viewership is a little testy these days.
Oh man, it's brutal. That's what we were kind of talking about. How people kind of get worked. It was ironic that we got the message that they got the message that they got, because it was like the show was on the show we were talking about that. Like we talked about it throughout the show about how people were like overreacting on things. They were getting testy about this and that. And I was like, sorry that that I was explaining to you what's been going on in the cigar business, and I answered a direct question.
Oh.
So it was a pretty fun time. So it was cool. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I thought it was a riot, but they did the whole after show on it, which was quite hilarious.
No, I'll have to go scroll back and find that one.
So John, tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit of what your experience is currently. In as things slowly start to open up, what's it look like in Rhode Island, specifically where you live? So you're around there. I know you've done a little bit of traveling outside of that area, but like, what's it like in Rhode Island? I think that's really interesting for people that that are watching and to understand how it's different in different areas. So like, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
So little by little, it's starting to soften up. We are, as a state, scheduled to go into phase 2 on or around June 1st. So we're getting close to that next push. Most of the cigar shops, if they have outdoor seating at this point, are slowly trying to work that back into the fold and get some people out there distance outdoors. I believe starting Monday, most of the shops will probably be fortunate enough to open up to a little bit of indoor traffic, but I think it's going to depend on what specific licenses they're carrying right now. Rhode Island, as you know, is a little different than most of the remaining New England market in that there are there are probably more cigar bars in the state of Rhode Island than there are in the rest of the New England, New York territory combined. So it's a little different environment than most. Um, but little by little, things are softening. You know, guys are out. The shops that were open for curbside have all been fairly fortunate that business was steady. You know, as we're seeing everywhere, business is off as a whole, but guys are chugging through and doing what they can. And hopefully, as we get into phase two and whatnot, Rhode Island's scheduled phase two for June 1, and right around July 4th, we should get into phase three. So hopefully we start to see things a little more on the normal end sooner rather than later, which unfortunately we can't say for all of the territory, but
Yeah, I think Massachusetts shops are still closed, and I think they're getting ready to start curbside service now.
they just did this week. Monday,
Mon-
Massachusetts started curbside. You know, the unfortunate part to Massachusetts that a lot of other states aren't dealing with, Massachusetts put in a flavor ban. I mean, on
Yeah.
everything from menthol cigarettes through flavored
Yep.
whatever, um, with a hard date of June 1st on that flavor ban. And mass shops have been closed since this went into effect around the 18th or the 20th of March. And they've just reopened on Monday with basically 6 days to sell out of their inventory. And it's not looking like there's any sort of an extension on that flavor ban. So
Yeah, it's disappointing. You know, we heard last week California put in their flavor ban effect, and that there was also some literature in there that said it kind of hinted towards even flavor notes that you'd get on a regular cigar. You know, we talk about, like we were saying before, with those tasting notes. From what I understand, the way it was explained to me is that not only was it a hard no flavor ban, which includes a lot of cigars in the market, you know, especially like acid and stuff like that. But they were also trying to play with the whole, like, well, if you're going to say a cigar has notes of cocoa, that's banned too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of shakes up the industry as well moving forward.
yeah, I think for a lot of it, and I mean, I think we all pretty much do it at some point, right? For us as a company, we have the box talkers. They have a small description on there. It's just going to be making sure that there's nothing in those descriptions that says tastes like cocoa or hints of X flavor. All of that's just got to be redone and made sure that it's not visible and in print.
Whereas my favorite tasting note, which comes from Mr. Jonathan Barbeau from the Cigar Authority, Chinese pea pods, I believe is the term he used one time. And he got a lot of shit for that. I think Dave Garofalo looked up like, what? So, yeah, no Chinese pea pod flavor out there either. Sorry,
Yeah.
that might have to go away. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, we saw Intertabac, the world's largest tobacco trade show, which takes place in Germany every September, was officially canceled today. That is the third major trade show after TAA and PCA have been canceled. And I think the next one would be TPE, if I'm not mistaken, in January. I guess so far, from what I've talked to, you guys and other friends in the industry, you guys are still saying looks like it'll happen, but who knows? I mean, if this coronavirus thing has another wave or whatnot, who knows? That could get thrown in the can as well. So it's definitely interesting. I mean, by now you guys have already probably been to a couple of these shows or getting ready to go to these shows and all these events, and haven't been doing any of that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. The other thing is I noticed that, or not noticed, I know, is the substantial equivalence deadline has been moved up, and I'm not sure till when. Was it September, fall?
It's
sometime?
like September 15th, which is fast approaching, to be honest with you. That's
Right.
It was good to have an extension, but that's close. I mean, September's like 3 months away.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was much of an extension, right? Because it was originally supposed to be this month.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I think it was like May 12th or something like that. It was supposed to be.
Yeah, at the beginning of the month, we're past it now. So it was great because it would have been a nightmare to try to figure it all out and have no idea what was going on. we're still all as an industry trying to figure it out as well. But so it's nice, but that's coming up close. That's approaching quickly. September will be here before we know it.
So for those who don't understand, the whole substantial equivalence and all of that, or maybe they kind of know what it is, but in terms of, when new products come out in the future, how does that work?
I don't think anybody knows,
Yeah.
And I don't think they know. Is part of
and
the
they don't
problem.
know either. So it's kind of here's what our government does. Like by the way, you guys have no idea the bullet we just dodged right here. Not as an industry, us as a show right now. My computer's been frozen for about 10 minutes and it just unfroze and the show stayed live the entire time. I kept checking it out. But I was sitting here with my fingers crossed the entire time. So we dodged a big bullet. But no,
You look over there.
yeah. I was like,
I knew something was up when you kept getting closer to the screen and
Yeah.
trying to listen harder.
So it's the same thing that's going on with like Corona. Like nobody knows, right? That's how our government works with most of these things. They have no idea. So they have ideas, they have concepts and things they'd like to do, but they don't really know how it's going to execute. And most of these things, when the government has regulations, it's up to the industries to figure it out, right? So it's up to us to figure out how it's going to work. And so they said, here's your rules. It's like taxes, kind of. So, hey, you're going to do your taxes. Well, how much do I owe you? Well, you got to figure that out. It's the meme that I read online. Well, what if I don't know how much it is? Oh, we know exactly how much it is, but you still have to guess it. And if you don't pay it, we're going to put you in jail. It's the same type of thing. Here's these regulations. How do I abide by them? Well, this is what we told you, so you have to figure it out. And then when you do figure out, it's like, oh, this isn't right. We need this. We need that. So they don't have any idea. There is no uniform policy on it as an industry. There's no uniform policy from the government on it. So it's up in the air. So who knows how it's going to work out? Hopefully better than the worst case scenario. But it's up in the air. We're not going to know until somebody starts filing for substantial equivalency and gets granted for it. And then we're not going to know until someone puts out a new product and then files for that for substantial equivalency and it gets approved or not approved. So we don't know until it happens in reality, which is unfortunate because it would be nice to know going in so you could just be prepared, right? So
Well,
we're going to go in
that's part of the
unprepared.
great fear, right? We don't want to turn into what the cigarette industry was when they started doing this back in 07, 08.
Hmm.
And, there were guys that put in for equivalency back then that still haven't got notice as to whether they've been approved or denied. So that's the predicament we don't want to be in.
Yeah. I think it's nice that Fozzie, you brought up the cigarette industry, because I think, for a lot of people who are not experienced cigar people or even industry people, I don't think people realize just how different the cigar industry is from the cigarette industry. And how people have heard the term big tobacco and they just think that means anybody who sells something that's made out of tobacco. Cigar companies are not big tobacco. It's different from Philip Morris and all of American Tobacco, which I don't even think is around anymore. But all those cigarette-focused companies and machine-made tobacco products, that's different from the premium cigar industry. And unfortunately, a lot of people in that industry, those companies and their policies and all the crap that they do, sometimes affects people in the premium cigar industry in major ways. And it's unfortunate because they are two different products, they are two different markets, and there's a lot of differences there, and unfortunately, people who just don't know better, they just lump it all together like, well, it's all smoking, and it's not. And unfortunately, you see stuff like that happen. And I'm pretty, I think it's safe to say, that's where the flavor ban comes in. The e-cigarette debacle. You had the whole thing with the kids buying the e-cigarettes and the vapes. So what was their response? Well, if it's flavored and you smoke it, it's all banned. So how is that fair to flavored cigar smokers who have been smoking flavored cigars for years and no one's had an issue with it? No one's died from that. And all of a sudden now they can't do that because kids were going on eBay and buying these cheap little Chinese-made machines with this liquid that came from God knows where, and they were vaping on it and getting sick and all whatnot. But now everyone has to suffer. And I think those are the little details that a lot of people don't understand that the industry faces on a daily basis. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Nice toss.
Waiting on you, Carney.
Split that. Hey, we've got the guest on the show here. I'm trying to scale it back a little bit. Try not to be a know-it-all.
He's already took enough heat in the last 2 weeks over that, so you know.
He's like, I can't talk to you anymore. I don't want to be a know-it-all. That's my spiel on it. You guys can tap into
No, listen,
it.
you hit it. You hit the nail on the head, right? We are a drastically different industry than what the cigarette industry is. We always have been. We always will be. But perception is everything, and to the general public, smoking is smoking. Doesn't matter what the product is. We are, I think, by statistical accounts. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. We are, as cigar smokers, 1% of the smoking population.
Yeah, at the most, that's a figure we use, but it's probably even smaller. It's probably smaller than that if you really look at it. So yeah,
So
it's tiny. It's tiny.
it's unfortunately very easy for these agencies, be them governmental or administrative, to kind of put their 2 cents in and gear up to attack us.
It's an easy target. It's an easy target, and the ultimate goal. Nicole mentioned it here. The flavored weed and stuff's fine in Massachusetts and California, but you can't have a flavored cigar. By the way, once they're done, they're going to have something. Once they're done regulating us and done working with us, and that time opens up, they're going to have something else they got to do. Like these jobs aren't going to go away. It's not. It's like lawyers. The lawyers never want legal disputes to ever go away. They always want something else to pop up because that's what they get paid on. They get paid to represent people. These people at the FDA get paid to regulate.
Well,
These
they'll move
bureaucrats.
down the line, right?
Yeah, so weed'll be
go
up
from
next.
flavored cigars to flavored vodka. That'll be the
Yeah,
next, right?
yeah, it'll be next, and they're going to go after industries that are easy targets, and the easiest targets see the biggest effect because you can't fight back as much. We're not. People are like, oh, they can do flavored vodka and this and that. By the way, the government's all over flavored alcohol. It's just they can't do anything about it because it's bigger than them. There's too many people involved in it. In our industry, it's small. So, the big part of tobacco, which is big tobacco, has nothing to do with this premium cigar business anymore. Even the companies that are big tobacco don't care about their premium sides. They just don't. So, they don't care about that battle. But, when people are like, oh, how can you do vodka? Vodka gets away with it. They don't get away with it, but they get away with it. They do get away with it at the end of the day because they just got so deep pockets. The government can't do anything about it because they can cut deals with them. All we can do is ask for help, and we can talk about it. It's very grassroots. So yeah, we're treated the same way everyone else is. It's just we're an easier target because we're so much smaller.
I feel like alcohol is something that's less frowned upon. Almost everybody, maybe not everybody, but a much vaster of the population drinks alcohol in some capacity. And smokers are looked upon differently. You have the cigarettes and all of the lung cancer and all that crap that has, come out. And hey, I'm not here trying to stick up for cigarettes either. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sticking up for, Marlboro Reds. But, alcohol is different. And it's funny how you bring up the vodka. It's like how, they wanted to say, well, you had flavored tobacco products and that was appealing to kids. Kids like, oh, you had Fruity Pebble flavored, vapes, and that was getting to the kids, and then they wanted to start smoking. So how is it any different? You walk into Cappy's and you go down to the vodka aisle and you look at Pinnacle and they got whipped cream, birthday cake, strawberry, blueberry, lemon. You're telling me some kid's not gonna be like, ooh, birthday cake flavored vodka, that's where it's at. You guys want to get this and go have a party?
It's all money, man. It's all money. They can get away with it because they're paying their dues, man. It's like the Gestapo. You go in, the government's the mob. They talk about this like, oh, the mob doesn't exist anymore. It does. The mob just joined the government.
Yeah.
All the mobsters. If you look at these connections, the families are all connected. They just changed the way they do business. It's just different. Business changed, and if you pay the mob, they'll protect you. So you pay the government, and guess what? Birthday cake vodka gets to exist. We can't pay the government enough money to leave alone a flavored cigar. We just can't pay them enough.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because there's going to be some casualties as the years go on, in the industry because of stuff like this. And there's a lot of consumers out there who I don't think realize that. They're just kind of chipping away and buying their cigars, not realizing, that, there's not good things coming eventually for the tobacco industry.
Well, and then when it affects them, generally when something affects the consumer, it's so far gone where you can't even fight back.
Exactly.
So when this gets to affect the consumer, and I think there is an educated consumer base that do get it, but they're not really actively involved because at the end of the day, they want to sit down and have a cigar and relax. They don't want to. They want to escape from the government. They want to escape from things. So they listen to it like this is crazy. They'll sit there and listen while you're sitting hanging out in a cigar lounge, having a drink, enjoying yourself, and then the next day they don't think anything of it just because they shouldn't have to. That's their escape. But when it affects them, it'll be too late to really fight it, and then it'll be, hey, why didn't someone do something about it? I see it all the time on social media when regulations come. It's like, oh, why didn't somebody do something? Hey, we tried, man. They're trying.
And I'm sure you see it. You travel far more shops than I do over the course of a year, right? At the end of the day, how many shops can you still walk into now? We're 4 years removed from the FDA making their decision and coming after us. And as soon as you're in a lounge and you bring up the FDA, there are still consumers that look at you like you have six heads and go, well, what's up with the FDA? What are they doing? We're 4 years removed from this being an attack on our industry, and people still don't grasp that it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. I look forward, the boys at the Cigar Authority, they do a segment at least once a year. I don't know if they do it multiple times. I think it's once a year. But they do their segment where they look into the crystal ball and they talk about their predictions in the industry. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, you should really pay attention to episodes like that. And when anybody does it, any cigar medium platform, it's information to know and think about if you're heavily invested in the cigar industry. You really like smoking cigars, you buy a lot of cigars, and you really love the industry and you love the lifestyle. Pay attention to that stuff. It's stuff that it's not just for you guys who work for major companies. It's good for everyone to know. So you at least know what's going on, because there are things out there that are attack on the industry, and it's nice to know and be informed. Yeah, I mean, like you said, once it starts to really affect the consumer, it's kind of like too late at that point. But I like bringing it up. I think it's worth talking about. I like to let all the other consumers out there know that, hey, there's some other stuff going on here. Pay attention to it. There's nothing that you can really do, but it's nice to know. You're not so caught off guard, I guess. So that pretty much covers all our news in the cigar industry for this week. We had a lot of that going on too. What was I going to ask you guys? So yeah, John Fozzie, you mentioned before you'll probably be getting out a little bit more now on the road, going to visit some places, visit some shops. Were there any major Christoph events or any major releases, I should say? Well, in addition, I know you were on the Ashholes with myself and Aaron a few months ago, and I know you mentioned you might have something coming out later this year. I think maybe even for the PCA show.
Originally that was bounced as being a potential PCA release. It has been pushed back.
Okay.
And the goal is still to get it to market before this year is out, but clearly that will be dictated by how quickly states get opened up and market gets back to some semblance of normal within the industry. But yeah, we do have something potentially up our sleeves for later in the year. So
now myself and Carney were talking about how the Flor Dominicana has been affected as a company during the coronavirus, in terms of production, product availability. How has the Christoph inventory line and manufacturing, how has all that been affected so far? You guys seen significant drops in manufacturing?
So much like John encountered, we're based in the DR as well. So we did see a shutdown, roughly, I want to say about 6 or 7 weeks. Fortunately for us, we see containers arrive just about every other week into our warehouse in Miami, and had a fair amount of stock on hand once those shipments had stopped happening.
Mhm.
So we were fairly well positioned. As we got into the beginning half of this month, the first couple of weeks, we were starting to see some back orders accumulate. Nothing on a serious level. And as quickly as the factory was able to get opened, their first order of business was focusing specifically on those back order items and getting those into that first container coming out. So we've pretty much at this point in the month have been able to eliminate all of our back orders, with a couple of small exceptions. Um, so we're fairly well positioned going into a season that I don't think any of us know what to expect. Given the change in weather and the timing of the year and the big holiday weekend just passing, I'm sure we all should have been substantially busier than we have been, without question, whether it's retail level or at our level. Um, but hopefully, as restrictions ease, it's going to have to be a gradual wave across the country. I think we all can agree on that. And unfortunately, because New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that tri-state area has kind of become the epicenter, and it is probably accounting for about 50% of the deaths right now. Um, this end of the market is what's going to be the slowest to open, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a while. Um, so hopefully Maine can ease up enough to get some tourist trade going and help drive that up there. Same with New Hampshire. Hopefully Rhode Island can ease up enough to get some of the beachfront tourism moving and get restaurants and bars active again, at some level of capacity. Um, Massachusetts will sit and see what happens, and Connecticut and New York, we just gotta keep our fingers crossed that things finally level off and we can get going again.
Yeah. And I know everyone's in the same boat too. It's just nice to see how each individual company has been affected, how they're dealing with it. I know there's a lot of unknowns, but it's also nice to ask those questions of, well, even though you don't really know what to expect, how are you preparing for the unknown? It's an interesting question to ask, and I'm sure every company out there. I happened to see, it was earlier today. I think Steve Saka, who all three of us know, from Dunbarton. He put out, I don't remember the specifics, but there's one line that he has right now that's been a little bit more limited, and he put out something saying that hey, we are out of them. Like, there's no secret stash. There's no, like, we're not like hiding anything. Like, they're gone. And they're trying to get those out to those retailers who ordered them and they didn't even get them, and they're trying to help those retailers get them first and all that. So I mean, I see it across the board, when I go on my news feed and I see all these people that I'm friends with who, either work for these companies or own these companies. It's everybody. Everybody's in this boat, So, it's not just LFD. It's not just Christoph. It's not just Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Everyone's doing it. I mean, I know that there's, I don't want to mention names and specifics, but I know that there's another company who has a release coming up, and I think it's gonna be fine now, but there was I think for a moment there was a concern, like, are we not gonna have these, just because of everything being shut down, and not only just, I think the inventory was made and prepared, but it was just like, are we gonna be able to get this into the United States, because a lot of the ports are closed and shipping is very scarce right now, and so I mean you have all those little details too, and there's parts that you can't even control, even if you tried, especially when it comes to like shipping and transportation of inventory, and you just kind of have to hope for the best. So yeah, it's going to be, and I'm sure a lot of your companies are going to experience some financial losses in some way this year because of this gap of decline in sales, which I mean, you have your online retailers, which is good. because people can still go online and order. A lot of people unemployed. They don't want to spend money. There's that side of it too. But the online retail is working. New Hampshire, for example, they were pretty much all the shops in New Hampshire. They had curbside service open for this whole thing, and now those shops are open now. They're accepting walk-in traffic. So, yeah, that's stuff like that. And like you said, being in New England, the epicenter of a hot area, it was nice to see New Hampshire still be able to have their shops be able to move inventory in some way, shape, or form during this. Meanwhile, there's some shops in Massachusetts I know who I've called inquiring about certain things, and they're like, yeah, we can't even do curbside service right now. So, we'll try to work with you in some way, shape, or form, but I can only imagine how some of those shops were really impacted. And not even just here. You look at California. California also has some really strict guidelines and lockdowns and stuff like that. So I have friends over there who said that their lounges and shops that they run just closed. They've just been at home, so there's no business for them right now. And I know California is not in a hurry to reopen, so you have to wonder. Some of those shops over there, they're going to see months of just zero on the board. So I think there's going to be some casualties after all of this is said and done, especially the smaller shops that may have already been struggling, or maybe we're doing okay, but they weren't very robust. You put them through a period like this, and that could really damage them, if not put them out of business. So it's tough to watch, but unfortunately that's the reality that we have to live with now. So, whew. Carney, how you doing on that cigar over there?
Good. I was working the transitions and stuff while you guys were talking there. We're in pretty good shape. The program's running smooth. The cigar, I got about 1.5 inches left on it. The wind's picked up outside here, but beautiful night. I've been spending most of my time out on the back deck. I've been outside most of this whole quarantine, even when it was cold throughout the beginning of March and April, and
Yeah.
But it's been awesome, man. Every night I sit back and relax outside, and it's been enjoyable. So I've been enjoying the back deck, which is my favorite area to sit and have a cigar anyway. So to get the opportunity, silver lining, to get the opportunity to do it every night for 90 days has been special. But I'd like to enjoy it less frequently.
Yeah, I most of these I've been doing up in my garage on the second floor, and now I have this. I think this is the first night I decided I'm gonna sit out here, and I have like an outside on my patio. I have a pergola above me, and then I have like an outdoor kitchen or my grill, and I have like a little bar here. And I was like, it's nice out. I want to sit outside and enjoy the nice air. Plus, it's probably really warm and humid up in that second floor of that garage because it has very poor air circulation. So I was like, I don't want to sit up there and sweat all night. But
so we just had a comment. I put it up on here from Susan, and it was asked, don't you have mosquitoes? Yes, we have tons of mosquitoes, but I have this little citronella torch here, and I also have 12 other citronella torches, and I have a smudge fire going off the side. For those that aren't familiar with what a smudge fire is, it's essentially logs burning in a fire pit, but they're not completely on fire, so it just creates smoke. So I have like a mosquito system in place to eliminate any mosquitoes, and I also have somebody that comes and sprays for them too. So even despite all of those things, there's still a lot of bugs out here. But tonight is a good night, so I'm not getting carted away, which is nice.
it's actually not even. She said mosquitoes. She had to go in. It's not even really mosquitoes. There's like these little flies out here, and they don't bite, and they're really not that bad. I mean, they're flying around, they're annoying, but
they're gnats.
Yeah, they're like gnats. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that bad. I don't know what she's complaining about. I'm still enjoying myself out here, but yeah. So, but I know mosquito season is right around the corner. Any day now they will show up, and I'm not looking forward to that. So, I'm going through my travel humidor that I brought out here with me, and I have some LFD in here actually. I have a chisel, double Ajero chisel. I don't know. Maybe I'll do one of those next. And I have another double Ajero over here. I have a lot of double Ajero on hand right now. I don't know what that's all about, but check that out too. Yeah, I try to keep my travel humidor well stocked. because I'm always out and about. I mean, except for right now with the coronavirus, but normally I'm always out and about. I'm going to cigar shops. I'm going to cigar events. Going to do the ash holes. I'm going to meet cigar friends. Going to the cigar bars. Try to keep a nice little stash on me because you just never know where you're going to end up. And like I said before early in the show, actually I don't even know if I said it on the show, but I've had a lot of samples and stuff like that people have been giving me, and I've just been ripping through them lately, just trying to make some room in my humidors. I'm getting full, and the last 2 weeks it's been a lot of smoking stuff that I don't like. I will say, I won't mention names right now, throw anybody under the bus, but oh yeah, it's been a lot of stuff that I've gone through, and I've gotten like into the first third, and I'm like, nah, go to the next one. So I'm glad I'm finally weeding those out of my collection, at least knowing, hey, I don't like these. So I will say my time home during quarantine has been nice because I've had the time to do more cigar stuff, and I've had the time to, I don't know, try new cigars. I just have more time to sit down and smoke. So I've been just ripping through samples and new stuff. And like I said, it's like for every like 20 cigars that I'll try of something new, only like 4 or 5 of them I actually like. So my ashtray was actually pretty full this morning from last night. And I had someone say to me like, oh yeah, there's a lot of cigars in that ashtray from last night. I'm like, yeah, I actually really didn't even smoke them. I tried them and I was like, I don't like it. I threw it right in the tray, which is a new thing for me. Normally, if I don't like it, I'm like, well, I'll finish it. Now I'm like, I don't care. If I don't like it, I'm not going to waste my time. I throw it right in the tray as I drop a cigar on the ground. Yeah, I just throw it right in the tray and I move on because I've learned, I've been smoking long enough. It's, if you try something and you really don't like it, and especially me, I hate anything that's too tight or even a little tight. I don't like tight draw. And if I'm smoking on something and the draw is just, if I don't find it easy to draw on, I'm like, I'm not wasting my time. I throw it in the tray and I move on because I want to enjoy my smoking experience. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing myself to finish a cigar. So if I get to that position, I'm out. And that's the truth. For everyone out there who watching me, who has been sending me stuff or what have you, telling me, hey, you got to try this. Yeah, there's been some duds along the way. I'm not gonna mention names, but I'll be honest about it. There's been some duds.
So I know that you as a whole tend to smoke fairly consistently day to day anyway.
Yeah.
John, through all of this, where do you find yourself? Because I tend to think from the conversations I'm having with people that I'm kind of going the other direction. Most
100%.
guys are telling me they're smoking more than ever, and I'm smoking less than I ever have.
I'm with you 100%. I maybe on a big day I smoke 3 cigars. On a normal day it's 1 to 2. Like I said, I lit up my first cigar today at 8 o'clock. It was just I had other stuff going on, and the reason why is, I mean, I'm a big cigar smoker, as you are as well. But most of my cigar smoking happens when I'm traveling in a car or in retail shops and smoking with people. So I smoke kind of what I would normally smoke when I'm home. It was like 1 or 2 cigars. Like when I'm home, I smoke maybe 1 or 2 a day. So normally I'll smoke 4 or 5 because 3 or 4 of them are out when I'm working. And then I come home. So so my cigar smoking stayed the same minus work. So I'm smoking significantly less than I had been. Most certainly. It went the other direction immediately. It was like the first day I was here was, 2 or 3 for the first few weeks, and it went down to 1 or 2. And now that the weather's got nicer, it's 1 or 2 a day, max.
Yeah, I was always kind of like 1 or 2 every day or every other day, and especially now that it's nice out and I currently can't even go out and do my normal routines or go to cigar shops and events. Especially since I've been doing a lot more reviews on cigars and expanding my palettes and all that stuff, I just have had the time. I'm like, hey, you know what? At least I'll smoke. So, yeah, I've been ripping through some stuff, and I'm curious to see. I'm sure when I kind of get back to my normal routine, I'm sure I'll smoke a little bit less because then I'll have actual things to do. Especially during the day when I'm at work, and so yeah, it'll probably drop down a little bit, which is okay. Not the end of the world.
I've had some weeks where I've smoked less in a week than I've smoked in some days. I caught a couple weeks ago. I think I had 3 over an 11-day period. So I was down to almost next to nothing.
Yeah.
But now that locally for me, some of the shops are starting to rebound, starting to do some outdoor seating. I'm sure I'll get back out locally at least a little more as the weather's getting better, and as a result, I'm sure my intake will start to climb again, but still not to where it would be if I was on the road full steam like we normally would be this time of year.
Yeah, especially you guys, because you guys are always going to events, or you're trying new products, or you're with people in a social setting and you're just having your social cigar for your own personal enjoyment, or you guys are always around people smoking. So I can imagine you guys not being on the road and being at home, and it's actually kind of like the opposite for you. It's like, wow, I really don't have to smoke so much, and I'm not going to. And whereas me, I'm like, I have nothing else to do but smoke. So yeah, it's funny how that kind of balances out and works out there. But yeah, I mean, luckily there's a few cigar events coming up too, and at least in my area, there's a Perdomo event coming up, father son dinner, the end of June. Two Guys Smoke Shop, stuff like that. Looking forward to. I know that Dave is still planning on going ahead with the anniversary dinner in September. Hopefully, we'll be okay for that. That's always a highlight for those who don't know what that is. I know both of you guys are there. I know you guys have been there many a times. That's a great event. You should check that out. Two Guys Smoke Shop in New Hampshire. They have their own anniversary dinner every year since September. It's like $225 to get in, but I'll tell you, the price of the ticket's worth it. You get a plethora of cigars just walking in the door. You get entered into a grand prize raffle, but there's some other small prizes in there along the way. Everybody leaves with something. There's a 4 or 5 course meal that comes out. A lot of the big names in the industry are there. Both of these guys will be there. And I know I think it was Glenn's been there, Jared's been there. Oh, you playing me off now?
No, you know what? I can't get the sound effects to work on the computer, so I found it on YouTube so I can play it through my headset when we're done. I've been working on it for 45 minutes.
Is this like the Grammys when you talk too long and they start playing you off? Jesus.
The most epic song in the history of songs.
See, Fozzie, he was disappointed now because you didn't, get to see the sound effects and what is the track called? It's like super awesome epic sound.
It's called Super Epic by Alex Nakaranda. It's
Yes.
He's from Norway and he just does like royalty free music online and stuff, and he does some cool stuff. So the reason I like the theme song to the Smokin Tabacco show is there's a show on the CW. It's called I think it's CW or whatever it's called. It's called Legends of Tomorrow, and it's a DC Comics show about these time travelers. Anyway, the music on the show is amazing. So when I found the song, I was like, this sounds just like, it's very similar to the theme song to Legends of Tomorrow, and it's super epic. So when I saw Super Epic and it was royalty free, I was like, oh, the song's definitely going to be the theme song for this.
Also, he was looking for something epic to play for our May Day Eve special that completely fell apart. We had to move to Zoom. We don't have all the footage from the first episode. So if you go onto my YouTube channel, you'll see episode 2, 3, 4, and so on. There's no episode 1. So if you're just kind of getting into this now, there is an episode 1. It's like the long lost episode because it did happen, but unfortunately, Carney lost that whole episode.
the May Day Eve massacre. It was great because as soon as we got back on Zoom, I was like, I can't believe all this happened on May Day Eve. So May Day Eve will never be a holiday. And episode 1, coincidentally, on Quarantine Grilling too, the first like 3 episodes had the same issues, similar issues as well. So there's on YouTube for Quarantine Grilling, it starts at like episode 6. So we're there are episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are available on Facebook. Same way episode 1 of Smokin Tabacco is. So if you go back into the archives on the page of Smokin Tabacco, you can check episode 1 of the May Day. By the way, Fozzie, the thing about the show was everything was going perfect. We had the guest in. Everything was going good. The show was going good. We had talking points. It was super organized. And 37 minutes in, it just went down in flames.
I thought it was fun how I just started looking at John's face, and you could just I just right before we lost it, I think he knew something was up, and it was like I just knew something's not right, and then we lost it, and then we were struggling to get it all back, and we come back, and I just see him back in the video. He's just like this. I'm like, you look like someone just killed your puppy. He's like, you have no idea. Like, this was supposed to be epic, and it's just not going to happen now. And I need a new laptop.
It was his first episode. I wanted to show him a good show, and I wanted to make it nice, and it was a massacre. It was the Mayday massacre.
It was epic, but for all the wrong reasons, right?
Yep. Super
Absolutely.
epic. Yep.
There was a so actually, if you watch some of my boxing videos on Smokin Tabacco on YouTube, I show off some of the different boxes, and I'll be doing more, and I have more that'll be going online. But I'll talk about certain boxes of stuff. And I was talking about, I think the video I released today was my Oro Scoro box, and I kind of touched on how there's a secondary market for certain things, and so there was somebody that I'm not going to get into too many specifics, but there was somebody that I agreed to trade some things for something else. That I had something I didn't want anymore, and he had something he didn't want, and we traded for it or whatever. And so we were exchanging information. And I give him my name and stuff like that. And he goes, "Wait a minute, hold on. Like, is that you? Wait, you mean your last name really is Tobacco?" And I said, "Yeah, it is actually." And he was like, "Oh, like I thought that was like a username you used online." I'm like, "No, that's really my name." Like that guy was blown away. That was probably the best reaction I got from anybody. He was so excited. He's like, "No way, that's awesome." Highlight of my day yesterday. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I don't know. It was definitely fun for me. Hold on, we have I try to. Oh no, you must have posted that, John. I see that comment in there.
No, there's a comment that I didn't play the overtime sounds. And I tried. I've been trying the overtime sounds continuously throughout the show, but no sound effects today. And the closing sounds will be via my headpiece. But hey, at least we're 95% on the show right now, which is great. That's a good thing, and we can make up for the rest. It said it's as long as it's not a repeat of Mayday.
Yeah, so far this is still better than the Mayday episode. We were still able to have our guest on here and have him be plenty involved, and everything went smooth otherwise after that. There's been no interruptions. And the thing is, we're making the best of our situation here, and it's not the most polished program, but we're working with the tools we have, and we still put a lot of effort in trying to put the best program together that we can every week.
Yeah, the biggest tool is me. I'm the biggest tool for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely a tool. Tool is a good term for you. Bad guy, maybe on the shows. Maybe I don't know. You sounds to me like getting the reputation for being the bad guy.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, the bad guy. Say hi to the bad guy.
Or the know-it-all apparently is your name. I mean I don't see it, but apparently other people do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll take it, man. I'm insensitive. It's fine. I'll take it. It's fine.
You gotta have thick skin to be in the cigar game. I'll
be honest, man. People just don't like it when you're right. You know what I mean? Like the things we were talking about. I wish I was wrong about the doom and gloom that's coming, but there's 40 million people unemployed. The conversation was really, the cigar business isn't going to be immune to this. Some companies like that Fozzie and I work for, we're going to be in pretty good shape. We're small. We're small companies. We're all eating from a big pie. We're small companies. We're pie eaters. We're eating a lot of pie. And the pie is going to get smaller, and the bigger companies, that depend on eating, larger chunks of that pie aren't going to have as many big chunks because we're going to still eat the same amount, if not more. So we're in a good spot, but we'd be, as I said before on the, I said on my know-it-all show, I said we'd be naive to think that the cigar industry is going to be immune to this. It's just not a reality. This type of retraction in the economy is not going to not affect us. It's affecting everybody.
Yeah, it's Oh, go ahead, John.
No, and you're 100% right. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, for the majority of consumers, is as much as cigars are a part of their day-to-day routine, um, it's a discretionary purchase, right? And if my cash isn't in my pocket, that cigar's not in my mouth,
Yeah.
and it's going to be felt for a while.
If everyone smokes one less cigar a week, that's a regular cigar smoker, that's like 1 million cigars. It's big.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to eat that. And somebody's, 1 million less cigars, that's a lot of retailers. That's probably more than 100 retailers. You can probably take 100 retailers that don't send, combine them together, and it's not 1 million cigars. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess that makes me a know-it-all. I guess being, predicting that and seeing what it is, it's just is this realities, and sometimes people can't handle the truth, and that's fine. And if they get upset when the truth is delivered to them, and hey, they can take it out on me. I'm fine with it. I got big shoulders.
One of the other things I think it was kind of worth mentioning is, me and Carney have been talking about this before. There's obviously, the people who are going to spend less on cigars and stuff, but for the people who are still going to be active or kind of active, who are still willing to spend money on cigars, there's going to be certain cigars that they won't be able to find because there could be a shortage on production from certain. I mean, like LFD's done a pretty good job. It sounds like Christoph's been doing a pretty good job. But there's in the rarer spectrums too. I talk to a lot of people who work in shops and people who work for companies, and there's certain rare cigars or more limited production stuff that might be harder to find now because of disruption in production, distribution. I know there was a fear, I think, at one point that Andalusian Bull would be even harder to find for a while from LFD. But I know John, you mentioned before, I think last week's show or something, or maybe the week before, that you do have all 6 of the rollers rolling Andalusian Bull again. So your production has continued, but still, I know that stuff like that could be even harder to find for the consumer who's still willing to go out and spend, which is also discouraging for those people as well.
Yeah, certainly. And that's a little piece of what we do, and there's a certain group that makes it, and that group's still there. So the bowls are just what they would have been anyway. Yeah, but in some of our secondary products, which are challenging, and for us, our challenge is, so we make all of our own cigars. We grow our own tobacco. So when we receive a shipment of cigars, that's something, we receive 2 shipments a month. That's coming straight from our factory, where some other companies are in a spot where they may buy their supply for the first 6 months of the year so they buy their June 2020 supply in, August or September of 2019. So they have 6 months of supply, and they're going through it now. It's going to be a spot where this closure does affect everybody. It's affecting us now. I had that discussion today because the box factories have been closed. And like, why? Well, I'm getting boxes from other people. And it was like, yeah, well, we own a box factory that's been closed. So our boxes are going to be empty first. Or, we're not going to have boxes first. And then when that catches up, we'll have boxes, and there'll be some shortages on some other stuff, because it's just going to happen. Everyone's going to be affected by these closures in some way. And some of it will be disguised. You may not notice it with some places, but with us you will, because it's, we own it. And when we don't have boxes, we don't have boxes. There's not a 6-month supply of cigars in boxes sitting around. We make them as we need them. We buy them as we need them. And, with the closure, we're experiencing it right now. And then a few months down the road, others will experience, but it'll all be at different times. The impact for different companies, will be at different times. Some people will be impacted in 3 months, 4 months. Some will be impacted next month. Some, a few are very impacted now. But that's just a natural transition. That said, everybody's going to be affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few manufacturers out there that, again, I'm not going to mention names. And I think the 3 people in this show here are going to know who I'm talking about. But there are manufacturers out there that do stockpile certain cigars, and they do have plenty of them, and might just take advantage of the situation and continue to make them rare, and limited and scarce. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, Carney, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, it's you're going to have disruptions. Everyone's going to have disruptions, and it's all going to come different things at different times. But it is going to happen, and it's to be expected. But also, just remember that it will pass. Hopefully at some point, everything will get back to normal and things will be normal again. So don't sweat it like this is going to be the new norm for the rest of the days to come. I think it's just.
John, is there anything you'd like to end on?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. You guys heard me, but nobody else did. So go to our guest here, John. Is there anything like to end on? Anything you personally got coming up? Anywhere you'll be seen here anytime soon?
No, it's at this stage of the game, I really haven't even put together a travel plan yet, just because so many states are slowly kind of coming back online. So I don't know where I'm going to need to be and when. I will be back out there hopefully soon. Hopefully by next week or the week after, I'll be into a little bit of a better routine of being on the road. My focus isn't really events right now. It's the summer and it's New England, and most retailers, and I don't say this to detract from any retailer at all, but it's summer in New England, and whether I show up to sell that cigar for you or your door is just unlocked, you should be able to sell that product at this time of the year. So my focus isn't going to be events. It's just going to be touching base with everybody and getting back into those routines. And I'll look to get back into the event mode as we get into the end of the summer and the fall onset. But right now, the goal is just going to be to try and get business as close to normal as it can be for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's important. And certainly this year is different. Where like you said, it is summertime. People get, especially more people going to be home. They have that time to smoke, and it's also a different time because you're really going to be a little bit more focused on making sure that the company is going to be running through this different situation. So obviously, a lot of guys, like both the Johns here and any of the other local reps at your local brick and mortar and industry people, they're going to focus a little bit less on events. They're going to focus a little bit more on just making sure that everything just continues to run smoothly, and that everyone's going to get through this. The retailers that they sell to, the companies with their manufacturing and their distribution, that's really going to be their focus right now versus going to all those events that you'd normally be going to. So yeah, I think that's also, it's a good point you bring that up. Connie, you got anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. We got quarantine grilling on Monday, 5 o'clock, Facebook Live. This week's episode is called Wakey Wakey Eggs and Bakey, Breakfast for Dinner. I continue to name the shows, obviously, since they're long names.
Doing a great.
I have that. I've named a few cigars we have, like the TAA Golden Anniversary Oro 50th Maduro. That was like a 17-word name, so I continued that. But yeah, Wakey Wakey Eggs and Bakey, Breakfast for Dinner, Quarantine Grilling. I will be the same as John. I've looked at travel schedules. Most likely, I'm going to probably jump back on airplanes again a little bit in July. In June, I'll be mostly up here in the New England market, and in the Northeast. New York's probably going to be a little ways out, but yeah, not really event focused. We're doing some virtual stuff that we're participating in, but nothing serious. Just said it's right now it's summer. In the area that I'm responsible for right now, on a temporary basis. It's the middle of the summer. It's people are outside. The cigar business is going to be robust if the stores can be open. So hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel for these retailers, and my in-store experiences will be relegated to parts of New England here over the next few weeks. But yeah, hopefully in July we get back to a little bit normal. But yeah, Wakey Wakey Eggs and Bakey, breakfast for dinner on Monday, quarantine grilling, and yeah, that's what I got going on here. We're getting into the weekend, looking like another good weekend of weather up here in Maine. Going to be in the upper 80s tomorrow, mid 60s, low 70s over the weekend, and we're going to get a little bit of rain, needed rain last week. We've had 2 straight weeks of no rain up here, so it's been a beautiful stretch of weather, but I'm big into the lawn game. So my lawn that my dad and I work on, the grounds crew up here, we could use some rain. So we're looking forward to that too. So some rain in the future. But no, that's what I got. So John, thanks for being on with us tonight. Really appreciate it. I
No,
appreciate
my
your
pleasure.
appreciate your friendship and appreciate your positive attitude that you bring to the cigar world. It's always you're always a breath of fresh air on everything that you're on, and you represent Glenn and Jared and the Christoph brand to a really high level. So we're fortunate to have you on and appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for joining. You're a good friend. You bring good attitude to, like John said, the show, the industry, your brand. You represent it really well. So really excited to have you on here. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we get to see you soon.
Well, you guys are
Definitely.
gonna have to hold on a second because the music's not quite teed up here. So just hold on. We'll talk a little bit more.
Well, I was actually going to ask you, since you mentioned you might do a little bit of traveling soon. Is that going to include the soap reviews?
Yes, I actually. So soap reviews were something that was really popular. I was doing. I did about 3 or 4 soap reviews before I got grounded up here in Maine. I actually have 2 or 3 soaps lined up. I've got your soap that you sent up to me. Thank you. That's lined up. I've got a lavender essential oil infused soap that I've got. I actually have 2. I have 2 lavender soaps that I need to review. So yeah, maybe we'll get some soap reviews going on Instagram next week.
That's what I like to hear. That's some positivity right there.
So we're all queued up here. I've got everything ready to roll on my end, and we can hopefully comfortably end the show. We went for an hour and 55 minutes after our closure, so we got good timing in here, and the computer held up its end of the bargain.
Yeah, it's perfect because it's just starting to drizzle where I am down here in Mass. So I'm gonna have to wrap this up and go in.
Nice. Well, I appreciate it, boys. Glad to hang out tonight. It was a good time.
All right, we'll
Thanks,
see
John.
everybody back live next Thursday, same place, same station. I haven't put in my resignation yet, so you've got a few more episodes out of me. But yeah, we'll see you on Monday, Quarantine Grilling. We'll see you back at Smokin Tabacco on Thursday, and you can always check them out at smokintabacco.com or Smokin Tabacco on Instagram, Twitter, Snapface, Twitface, TikTok, and Facebook. So Smokin Tabacco.
And YouTube, all the previous episodes, as well as my unboxings or box reviews, are also on my YouTube channel at Smokin Tabacco as well. So like and subscribe as well. And we'll see you next week.